Let's talk about forecasting a little bit. Now, forecasting, for the people who are data scientists out there, realize that forecasting it's a massive topic. In fact, software programs have been written specifically just for forecasting. So as a little disclaimer, I really want you to think about using this forecasting tool with discretion and understanding before you start reporting and taking action on it. Okay? Because forecasting is a very, very difficult thing to do. People, study years just on forecasting. Okay? So make sure you understand what's actually happening with the data before you do things. With that being said, I'll show you how Tableau does it, right? And the technique it uses. And from memory, it's called exponential smoothing. And it's just one of hundreds of forecasting methods you can use, right? And then maybe at the very end, we'll also talk about your options if you do want to do forecasting. Okay, so let's begin. To do forecasting, we need a time-based value, right? So order date, and then some sort of value that we're counting or, you know, in our Y value. Okay, and from these, we're going to try and predict what's going to happen in the future. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to create it from scratch. Let's look for order date. All right, let's drop that in columns. Let's go for a monthly level and let's bring in sales. So pretty standard stuff for now. And I want to bring in the forecast. So let's go analytics menu up here. Okay. And we're going to look for forecast, right? Right there. So I'm going to grab that and just drop it into this little item here. Make sure it turns gray. You'll notice with a lot of things in Tableau, once it turns gray or you see a little triangle, then you know you're right to drop. Okay. And you'll see that we now have a forecast. Now it calls a number of things into question. If someone ever came to me and goes, Jed, I forecasted our sales for the next year. The very first question I have is, what model did you use? Okay. What variables, what technique, how much data did you have? How accurate is it? What historical information did you use? It raises a lot of questions, which is why I want you to be very careful with showing people this forecasting tool. Okay. If you do want to try and understand what it's doing, if you simply click on the forecast value, sorry, right click on it, right? And you go to forecast, you can go to describe forecast. And from here, you can see a lot of the things that it's doing. Okay, we're not going to go through the details. And if you go into models, you're going to notice one very important thing. All forecasts were computed using exponential smoothing, right? Very important that to understand that this is the technique it's using. And once you get into forecast and modeling, you'll understand that certain models are good for certain problems, some are limited, some are have strengths and weaknesses. So very important to understand. And if you wanted to know what exponential smoothing is, right, I've got a article here that I wrote. I'm just kidding, I didn't write this. This is on Wikipedia, right? And it explains to you in detail what exponential smoothing is. So you can see that it is, I wouldn't say super complex, but it's not exactly trivial. It's not exactly basic either, right? So take the time to understand what it's doing, right? And from there you can make a better decision of whether it's something you should be using, as a company or whatever it is you'll be working on. So where was the thing I was working on? Right here. Okay, so that's how you can do it. And I'll show you a few more options. If I right click on this again and go forecast, I can go forecast options. And what this lets me do is control how far I'm going to forecast as well as a few other things. So in here, it's automatically 13 months. I can change that to be a number of years. Okay, all right. As you can see right there, I can change the aggregate by, so what kind of value it's doing. Because we've set it for month, it sets it to months, right? We can look at the forecast model, right? We can look at the prediction intervals. I don't use this too much, right? And this is probably a specific kind of area of study. So I suggest, looking into it a bit more. And the best way you can do that is to click on this button and go learn more about the forecasting options. You may be interested in looking into introducing, I believe, MATLAB programming, so statistical modeling using some sort of mathematical tool like MATLAB or R programming or Python, which has a lot, right? Other things you can do, right, if you want to look at it, is looking at machine learning algorithms that can let you do predictive modeling. Okay, but again, that's a whole nother area of study, which we'll not be covering in this course. Otherwise, I'd have to write a whole new course. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to show you, right, and please actually send me an email if you ever want to discuss machine learning and that kind of topics. I'll be happy to get into a discussion and see if there's a high enough demand. Maybe it's something we can talk about. Okay, right? And the last thing I'm going to show you is actually how to get rid of this thing. So if you right click on it, okay, you won't see the delete thing here, right? To get rid of it on this sales one, you can right click, forecast result, and go none. Okay, and that gets rid of it for you. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.